Listen closely, cursed spirit. There's no way you do not know this. An arm is merely a decoration. The act of applause is an acclamation of the soul. Sorry, my boogie woogie curse technique is already dead. Today we're going to be talking about Aoi Todo, the original big brother of Itadori Yuji. Todo has gone from a menace to the Tokyo and Kyoto squads to one of the biggest reasons that Yuji walked out of Shibuya alive, paving the way for many of the events that happened in the series after the Culling Games. If you've seen any discussions about the series, chances are you've seen questions come up about when Todo will make a comeback. He's been impressive since the day he was introduced and has been missing since his sacrifice against Mojito. Some people also wonder how Todo would have done in the Culling Games had he not lost his technique in Shibuya. So there will be a discussion on his strength, his abilities, how he got as far as he did, and how he would perform against certain characters in the Culling Games. Todo is the only student of Yuki Tsukumo, who was scouted as young as 3rd grade. Yuki Tsukumo is one of the 4 registered special grades in the series, the same Yuki who could destroy the entire world by sacrificing her life, by making a black hole that could blow up the planet if not for Tengen and her own influence suppressing the attack. The same Yuki who pushed Kenjaku, an unregistered special grade, to near death, who even after she died is still one of the strongest characters to ever enter the series. Todo is also respected by Satoru Gojo, the strongest of his era, as someone who would pass special grade when reaching his peak, the highest rank of sorcerer in the entire series. And Gojo, the strongest there was, thinks that Todo would become so strong that they'd have to make a new rank for him entirely. Right off the bat, Todo is portrayed as a monster compared to others, someone who towers over those like Megumi Fushiguro, not only physically, but in experience as well. He's respected by both the Kyoto and Tokyo squads as someone that stands above them on his introduction, all who are significant in their own way, which I will get into soon. He's immediately introduced as someone who can manhandle Megumi Fushiguro and not get hit a single time. Megumi, who at the time was grade 2, should have strength on par with the grade 1 curse. He also speed blitzes Megumi and gets behind him before Megumi even knows what's happening. The same Megumi who should be at least in the same league as other members of the Tokyo squad. Megumi has one last-ditch effort of trying to restrain Todo with his frog shikigami, which fails miserably, to which Todo questions Megumi on if he's even trying because the gap between them is so big. Todo and Megumi get ready to fight even harder, and they're interrupted by Toge Inumaki. Toge Inumaki is a semi-grade 1 sorcerer that should at least be in the same general ballpark as a special grade curse. Inumaki uses a curse speech command, "Don't move," to stop Todo from reaching Megumi. This is the same command that Inumaki used against Hanami, a special grade cursed spirit, to stun it for a brief amount of time. Panda, one of Principal Yaga's creations, comes in and punches Todo while he's stunned, which he walks away from like nothing even happened. Panda is grade 2, meaning he should be at least as strong as a grade 1 curse, yet Todo isn't even remotely concerned by his attack. Todo shows mild interest in Megumi after sensing one of his stronger shikigami, and says the fight might not be as boring as he thought, and to bring Yuta Kotsu. Todo thinking fighting the entire Tokyo squad will be boring is another point I'll get into later. Yet even with his confidence, asking for a special grade like Yuta Kotsu is out of his league. In this same set of scenes, a flashback is given about Todo in the Night Parade of 100 Demons, a war started by Suguru where he summoned 1,000 cursed spirits in both Kyoto and Tokyo. In the Night Parade, Todo beat 5 grade 1 cursed spirits without even using his curse technique because he didn't think they were worth it. Grade 1 curses are around the same strength as grade 2 sorcerers, like Megumi, and Todo didn't even think fighting 5 of them was worth his time. Todo then fought a special grade cursed spirit in the same day, which he killed. This special grade curse, which is the highest rank in the series, was finally interesting enough for Todo to use his curse technique, which we'll get into later. Todo's next stop is the Kyoto Exchange Event, a team battle between the Tokyo and Kyoto squads, which includes Megumi and many others. When the Kyoto squad is planning for the event, Todo disagrees with their plan and leaves, threatening to kill all of them if they get in his way. The Kyoto squad consists of Momo Nishimaya, Mai Zenin, Noritoshi Kamo, Miwa, and Mekamaru, who range from grade 3 all the way to semi-grade 1, making their strongest members equal to special grade curses, and none of them respond to Todo. This threat even goes to Principal Gakuganji, whose rank remains unknown. Gakuganji is the same man who executed Principal Yaga, a grade 1 sorcerer. Yet he doesn't even bother to respond to Todo's death threats, even with the backup of the entire Kyoto squad. The exchange event starts and Todo rushes the entire Tokyo squad by himself, and all of them run away except for Itadori Yuji. The Tokyo squad ranks anywhere from grade 3 to semi-grade 1, much like the Kyoto squad, yet they didn't even bother fighting Todo if they didn't have to. Maki, in a flashback, says that Todo might destroy all of them even if they all fought him at the same time. When you consider that the Tokyo squad at most are equal to grade 2 all the way to special grade curses, and Todo wiped out 5 grade 1 curses and a special grade a year before this fight and barely even found it interesting, Maki saying he would take all of them down at once is very true. With the Tokyo squad all running away, Todo is now fighting Itadori Yuji, the same man who, while barely having cursed energy, can go toe-to-toe with special grade curses like Mojito. Todo takes a knee to the face from Yuji and spits blood out of his mouth while complimenting Yuji on his speed, while Yuji is nervous about Todo's strength. This is a big contrast to him getting punched in the face by Panda and responding with a casual conversation. Todo then locks on and launches a punch at Yuji, who's shaken and thinks his arm would have been blown off had a curse not gotten the punch his way. The same Yuji that Megami compared to pre-awakened Maki Zenin before he even knew what cursed energy was. Todo then stomps Yuji into the ground with several kicks to the head and is surprised that Yuji can stand back up. Todo's shock here is another sign that Yuji stands above the entire Tokyo squad, since him being surprised shows that this would have been more than enough to take out the rest of their ranks. The Kyoto squad shows up and tries to kill Yuji, which Todo stops with his curse technique, and they didn't even know what his technique was until this happened. The Kyoto squad not knowing Todo's curse technique is significant because this means all of them respected him threatening to kill them based on his raw strength alone, which may even extend to Gakuganji as well. Todo then sends the entire Kyoto squad away, and none of them seriously contest him, even though they showed up on Gakuganji's orders. This once again shows that no one in the Kyoto squad thinks they can defeat Todo, even if they're all working together, especially with Itadori Yuji by his side. Todo and Yuji go back to their fight, and Todo can keep up with and take attacks from Yuji. Yuji is someone who can match Nanami's speed and keep up with Mojito. The former is a grade 1 sorcerer and the latter is a special grade curse. Todo is impressed by Yuji and says Yuji has even more raw strength than he does, yet Todo can still take attacks from Yuji with no real issue. Todo also realizes that Yuji barely has any cursed energy, making it hard to read his moves. This is a similar effect that Toji has on his opponents from not having any cursed energy, which is one of the biggest advantages that Toji had over Gojo from Gojo struggling to track him. Yet Todo faces a similar threat in Yuji and has no issue responding to him consistently. Todo recognizes a problem with Yuji's cursed energy and stops the fight to teach him that he's using it incorrectly. Even with Todo praising Yuji's strength and strategy the entire fight, he's so far above him that he's willing to stop and teach him to get stronger mid-fight just to make it more interesting. When he sees that Yuji's growing while fighting him, Todo is happy and stops Yuji's divergent fist with his own forehead before the strike can gain enough momentum to reach his full strength. Not only does this highlight how long Todo wanted a good fight that the others couldn't give him, but it also shows his intelligence since no one has ever used this strategy against Yuji before or after Todo himself. Todo stops the fight again and teaches Yuji that his weaknesses are holding him back, and shows him how to tap into even more of his cursed energy. Even with Yuji's growth, Todo is still far above Yuji and hasn't even used his curse technique or many of the other tricks up his sleeve, telling Yuji to make his way up to his level while he trains him mid-fight, showing that he's been holding back the entire time. While they fight, the exchange event is invaded by Hanami, and Todo and Yuji show up to fight together. Hanami is a special grade curse, the highest rank in the series, and one of the 3 disaster curses. Hanami recognizes that Todo is weaker than him, but can't ignore the strength of his presence, and is wary of him. This is impressive because Hanami has already fought Toji Inumaki and Noritoshi Kamo, both of which are in the range of special grade curses, and made no such comment about either of them. Todo is so confident about facing Hanami that he tells Yuji if he fails to use a black flash, he'll let Yuji die and fight Hanami by himself, showing no concern about dealing with one of the strongest curses in the series, even with 0 health. This brings even more context to Noritoshi, who's semi-grade 1, running away from Hanami, even with backup, saying that finding Todo is their main priority, showing the massive gap between Todo and the Tokyo and Kyoto squads is even bigger than what was implied. Todo is also one of the few characters in the series that can use the black flash, which he taught Itadori Itadori Yuji. This gives him an understanding of cursed energy that's heaven and earth compared to those who haven't used it, making him leagues above many other characters in the series. Yuji lands a black flash against Hanami, and Todo joins the fight, making Hanami recognize that it will need to go all out against them. Something that it never said about any of the other Tokyo or Kyoto students, including Inumaki, Noritoshi, Megami, and Maki, who it looked down on so much that it didn't even bother using its left arm to fight them. Hanami unleashes its curse technique, and Todo immediately recognizes its weaknesses, saying it sacrifices power and speed in exchange for range. This is something that Yuji didn't recognize, even with his ability to process decisions in a tenth of a second. On top of Megami also not seeing this, even though breaking down his opponent's techniques is a major part of how he fights. Todo is also shown keeping up with Itadori Yuji, and no visible difference in damage is shown between them, since Hanami recognizes both of their strength as being relevant during the fight, which is interesting because the Black Flash puts Yuji at 120% of his potential, yet Todo is still in the same league as Yuji in base. Hanami then undoes its curse technique that Todo and Yuji climbed, taking all the ground away from underneath them, and they manage to escape before being killed in midair. This shows intelligence for both of them, and shocks Hanami, who was sure that this would be effective. Todo then goes even further and breaks down every technique Hanami has that he's seen so far, showing he's broken down every technique Hanami's shown him the first time he saw them, which none of the other students, including Maki, Megami, or Yuji, have done. Hanami catches him off guard with an attack from underground and throws Todo to his death, which Todo reverses with his technique. This is Todo's curse technique, Boogie Woogie, that lets him swap places of any two things above a certain level of cursed energy, and shows his intelligence by turning Hanami's attack back on its user. Todo also tells Hanami that he can swap places with someone else using his technique, Boogie Woogie. This is intentional from Todo, since he's using mind games to trick his opponents by only telling them half of how his technique really works. Todo then uses this technique in combination with Yuji to overwhelm Hanami so much that it panics and can't escape. Hanami being pushed this hard is impressive because even when outnumbered by two people who should be close to special grade curses, it didn't even take them seriously, let alone get pushed to the point of panicking mid-fight. Hanami then targets Yuji with its curse buds, and Todo swaps Yuji out of the way with his curse technique. The curse buds are a technique from Hanami that root themselves inside of their opponent's body, latching on to cursed energy and kills them from the inside out the more cursed energy they use. The same technique that took down Megami Fushiguro. Todo starts to defend himself with cursed energy, remembers Megami's words, figures out how Hanami's curse buds work, and shuts off his cursed energy to counter the buds, all within 1/100th of a second, something that many other sorcerers wouldn't have the presence of mind to do, let alone as quickly as he did it. Through the fight, Todo has lured Hanami into a riverbed, where he swaps Yuji with Playful Cloud. Todo doing this is yet another sign of his intelligence, since one mention of the weapon from Fushiguro was enough for him to plan ahead. Todo then infuses his own cursed energy into Playful Cloud and slams the cursed tool into Hanami's head, causing the curse to cry out in pain. This is impressive for many different reasons. Playful Cloud is described as power itself, amping its strength based on the strength of its user, and takes Maki from being too weak to even phase Hanami to ripping through its body in one attack. Todo, who was stronger than Maki in Maki's own words, infused his cursed energy into Playful Cloud on top of that. Hanami is also compared to Cursed Nalya, another strong special grade in the series, who can take on Maki after her first awakening after she one-shot human Nalya and the entire Zenin family, many of which ranked at Supreme Grade 1. Yet Noritoshi, who fought both of them, says Cursed Nalya doesn't even compare when it comes to durability. Yet Todo has Hanami wailing in pain. This is also expanded on by the author, saying that if Jogo were hit by Yuji's rush of black flashes and Todo's Playful Cloud, he would be killed instantly. All this is if Yuji and Todo can even hit Jogo, which they aren't fast enough to do, but it's still interesting to note. This damages Hanami so much that it starts draining the life from the plants and nature around it. The same nature that Hanami swore to protect, it's now killing because Todo and Yuji have beaten it so badly that it threw away its own moral code. Hanami uses this energy to start its domain expansion, and Todo tells Yuji to stand back while not moving an inch from where he stands. Todo's confidence against Hanami's domain may come from him having a domain counter in simple domain that neutralizes guaranteed hit techniques. With the entrance of Gojo, Todo tells Yuji to stand back or he'll be collateral damage. This is Todo sensing Hollow Purple in advance, which Yuji didn't even have the presence of mind to do. showing once again that he's a step above. Something that you'll also notice is that Todo didn't take a single hit of damage from Hanami the entire fight in the manga, while also keeping Yuji's damage to a minimum. This shows how in control of the fight Todo was from beginning to end, and how skilled he is with his curse technique, Boogie Woogie. Gojo also credits Todo after seeing Yuji is much stronger than before, and says they should be fine even if they're against a special grade. This shows how much faith Gojo has in Todo's strength, and how much he recognizes him as someone who can improve Yuji. When the exchange event ends, Gojo asks the students if they want to continue since people have died, and Todo's response is that the only thing to do is to get stronger. This implies that Todo may have trained in between the exchange event and Shibuya, which is often overlooked. The Kyoto exchange event happens in September, and Shibuya starts on October 31st, meaning that Todo may have gotten a month of training in during that time. When the Shibuya event happens, Yuji gets taken down by Mojito in a one-on-one. Not only is Mojito a special grade curse, the highest rank there is, but he's also stronger than he was when he and Yuji first met. Todo swaps in for Yuji and takes on Mojito, who can't touch him a single time even with his best efforts. Not only does this show Todo's skill with Boogie Woogie, it's even more impressive because of Mojito's ability to reshape his own body, to make him even harder to keep up with. Mojito also points out that Todo is both dodging him and keeping Mojito away from Yuji at the same time, which is once again another show of how far Todo thinks ahead, even while in the middle of fighting someone for the first time. Yuji rejoins the fight, and Todo keeps him from being hit a single time with his curse technique, while applying pressure to Mojito with no break in between. This is especially impressive because Yuji is at 10% of his strength, and can go down at any moment, making what Todo's doing even more crucial, and he does it to perfection. This is so effective that Todo becomes Mojito's main priority for the rest of the fight. Even with Yuji being near death, Mojito can't afford to focus on Yuji because Todo will not let Yuji's death happen. He also swaps places with one of Mojito's transfigured humans before it can damage him, which impresses Mojito because Todo picked up on its cursed energy before it was even released. As impressive as Todo is, he recognizes Yuji's growth, saying that Yuji is surpassing him. This shows how high level the fight is, because Mojito could take down this same Yuji on his own, yet Todo, who thinks Yuji surpassed him, can still compete in the same fight. Todo also uses a black flash on Mojito, which does no damage to him because Todo can't damage Mojito's soul. However, this puts Todo at 120% of his potential, which Mojito and Yuji already tapped into before he even arrived to the fight. In response, Mojito floods the entire area with transfigured humans to counter Todo's technique from all sides. This highlights how much Todo's presence matters to Mojito, since he'll go to these lengths to take Todo's technique off the table. Even with this, Todo still controls the fight and prevents himself and Yuji from taking any damage even after Mojito clones himself, showing exactly why taking him down is priority number one for Mojito. Mojito makes soul Isomers to counter Todo, which combines many souls into one body to boost their strength. Not only are they strong enough to damage Todo, but he also one-shots it by infusing his own cursed energy into a rock, launching it behind his opponents, and using it to swap behind them for an attack to the back of its head. After taking down 2 more Isomers, Todo rejoins the fight with Yuji and Mojito, taking down every single one of them before Mojito could capitalize on Yuji being close to death. Not only does this shock Mojito, he has no confidence in hitting Yuji while Todo is around, which pushes Mojito into using his domain expansion. This is basically considered suicide since it'll put Mojito in direct contact with Sukuna. Yet Mojito sees this as his only option if Todo is around. This forces Mojito to evolve his domain to use it for 0.2 of a second, which he learned by watching Gojo, which Todo counters with simple domain. However, Mojito moves faster than Todo did, and he cuts his own hand off before it explodes from idle transfiguration to save his own life. Mojito capitalizes on this by using a black flash on Todo, which hits him with the strength of a regular strike to the power of 2.5. Yet Todo survives this by concentrating all of his cursed energy into his stomach, even though this same attack from Yuji has blown body parts off of special grades and broken their limbs on different occasions. Using the last of his technique, Todo slaps hands with Mojito to activate Boogie Woogie and swap with Yuji. This damages Todo's soul where his hand is due to Mojito's curse technique, and brings his Boogie Woogie technique to an end. Mojito activates a new form where he's twice as strong as before. So strong that Yuji can't even damage him without pouring all of his cursed energy into a black flash. Seeing this, Todo rises from the shadows, telling Mojito an act of applause is an acclamation of the soul, tricking Mojito into thinking he can still use his curse technique and getting Yuji a black flash for free, putting an end to Mojito in Shibuya. Todo took some serious injuries in Shibuya, but many people question how he would have done in the culling games had he not taken the injuries that he did. And I'd say in most situations, he pretty much gets no dipped. There are 5 main fights I'll look at here. The fight against Kashimo, Uro, Ryu, and Kuwarushi in Sendai Colony, Readystar and his goons, Higuruma, and Cursed Nalya, which were handled by Hikari, Yuta Kotsu, Yuji, Megami, and Maki, respectively. Todo is very open about Yuji surpassing him in Shibuya, even if they're still in the same general weight class. Yet once Yuji meets Hikari, he can't even damage him with a headbutt, and is heavily damaged by a handful of Hikari's attacks. Not only that, but Hikari blatantly puts himself above Yuji by saying he should take the strongest opponent and that Megami and Yuji should handle problems somewhere else. Hikari had many close brushes with death against Kashimo, which he survived thanks to his Jackpot's automatic reverse curse technique. Todo has never shown the ability to heal himself, and is in the same tier of speed as Yuji in Shibuya, the same Yuji who Hikari puts himself above without question. And Hikari was hit several times by Kashimo's lightning, which is described as a borderline undodgeable attack. Using this, Todo would probably get his body ripped open and massacred by Kashimo, and left for dead regardless of his technique. Next, you have the fight between Uro, Ryu, and Kuwarushi, all of which are generally thought to be around special grade in strength. I'm not gonna include Drew since he got off-screened. It's not even clear what he can do at his full potential. Yuji was able to keep up with Yuta right after Shibuya, who expected to blitz Yuji, who Todo is also relative to. So there won't be any speed blitzing going on with any of the Sendai Colony fighters. Todo does get to compete, briefly. Todo's biggest weapon here by far is his curse technique, Boogie Woogie, which lets him swap places with anything above a certain level of cursed energy. This is useful against most things like Kuwarushi's weapon, which almost one-shot Yuta, and Ryu Ishigori's Granite Blast, which gives Todo ways of dodging that Yuta doesn't have. But the biggest disadvantage for Todo is that these aren't one-on-one fights, but that only becomes relevant if he can get past Kuwarushi. Boogie Woogie has shown the ability to swap places with any 2 targets above a certain level of cursed energy. This can come in clutch with separating Kuwarushi from his festering life blade, which holds the power of life and death. Todo's biggest problem comes with the amount of roaches that Kuwarushi can summon at one time. Boogie Woogie was only ever shown to swap the places of 2 targets at once, not millions of small targets all at the same time. Because of this, Todo would likely not be able to swap places with every single one of Kuwarushi's flesh-eating roaches at once. It would be very difficult for Todo to deal with Kuwarushi's roaches, and make it highly likely that at some point he would be eaten alive and die. If you somehow think Todo gets past Kuwarushi, then he moves on to Uro and Ryu. While Todo's Boogie Woogie is a major advantage for him here, the biggest threat is if he gets hit by anything at all, which would wear him down due to his lack of reverse curse technique, and that Kuwarushi will simply come back to life. This puts Todo in a really tough situation against 3 strong opponents in a free-for-all, at least 2 of which have domain expansions. With Todo's best defense being simple domain, the odds of him surviving do not look good here. Next up is Readystar, which is honestly Todo's best matchup. Todo's Boogie Woogie is a complete counter to Readystar in every way humanly possible, and this makes Reggie one of his easiest fights in the series. How strong Megami is gotten by the culling games is a little vague, but he can at least keep up with Yuji in some form in Shibuya. Given that this is the case, saying that Todo would bare minimum be in Yuji's weight class is more than appropriate. Readystar's curse technique revolves around summoning items with his cursed energy, while Todo detects cursed energy and swaps places with targets at will. This basically means that whatever Readystar summons makes him Boogie Woogie bait, and Todo would smash him into the ground with little to no contest. Higuruma is a bit complicated since it involves court cases and arguments on both sides, and with Todo being ridiculously intelligent, this fight can go many different ways. If you think that Todo would use his intelligence to win the court case, then he undoubtedly beats Higuruma. Higuruma is accompanied by a Shikigami, Judge Man, and he also wields a cursed tool. With Judgeman showing no direct combat abilities, if Todo wins his case, then he can take away Higuruma's weapon with Boogie Woogie and then outmatch Higuruma with clever use of his curse technique and raw strength. If he loses his case and Higuruma takes away his curse technique, then things are more in Higuruma's favor. This doesn't count Todo out of the fight at all, since he would still have access to his cursed energy, unlike Yuji, meaning that he can still potentially use a Black Flash, which Higuruma never showed that he can do, and would still be able to defend himself with cursed energy. With Higuruma being equal to a grade 1 sorcerer, he's far from being out of Todo's pay grade. This is the man that can beat 5 grade 1 curses in a special grade in a single day, and only find it mildly entertaining. That being said, it's still more than possible for Todo to win, since unless he's a mass murderer when he's off screen, Higuruma getting the Executioner's Blade, which can one-shot whatever it touches, is extremely unlikely. The last big fight of the Culling Games is against Cursed Nalya, which is honestly more one-sided than people give it credit for. This mainly comes down to how fast Nalya is with projection sorcery, especially in his cursed spirit body. Todo had his last big showing in Shibuya, where he was shown to be equal in speed to Yuji, the same Yuji that Nalya blitzed casually while he was still human, without even using his top speed. Cursed Nalya's body is not only faster than he was when he was human, but he's also so strong that he can one-shot Maki after her first awakening, the same Maki who can wipe out several grade 1 sorcerers in a single day, and then go on to hunt down several more on her own, the same rank that Todo has. This makes the fight very difficult for Todo, since he's fighting someone he can't even keep track of. The biggest disadvantage for Todo outside of Nalya's strength and speed is that Maki has a passive healing ability and he doesn't, on top of Maki fighting Nalya with a bunch of other people and Todo is by himself. Todo was a monster during his time, so much so that no one around him even dared to oppose him, and when he did fight, he took over every time. But why did he become so strong? Todo has always been stronger than those around him, even when he was a child. This is to the point where he could beat up people twice his age, and still be bored since it was no challenge to him. Todo's wish to face a strong opponent not only made him keep getting stronger, but also seek out stronger people to fight as he progressed. On top of his attitude of when facing a problem, gaining more strength is the only answer. This can also be tied to Zaraki Kenpachi, who Todo is based on, who faced a similar issue and even suppressed himself against weaker opponents just like Todo, all to make the fight more interesting. Todo has 3 abilities, all of which are very simple. His curse technique, an ability he can't use at will, and a counter for domain expansions. Todo's curse technique, Boogie Woogie, lets him swap places with 2 things that are above a certain level of cursed energy. This can be anything from people to cursed tools, curses themselves, or things that he infuses with his own cursed energy. Todo's second ability, the Black Flash, lets him attack an opponent exponentially harder than normal for a single strike, at the power of 2.5. This also puts Todo at 120% of his potential, and can't be used at will, although attempts to use it can be made. Todo's final technique is his simple domain, that he learned from Yuki Tsukumo. This lets him cancel the guaranteed hit technique of domain expansions, although it is weak against high-level domains like Sukuna's and Kenjaku's. Other interpretations of simple domain have been used for offense, like Suguru's curse, Kuchisake Onna. However, Todo has shown no ability to do this. Now, there has been a question floating around on if Todo can make a comeback because of the subtraction technique mentioned in Sukuna vs. Gojo, where sorcerers can subtract hand signs and chants to become more skilled. Todo lost his Boogie Woogie, which he used with his hands, so it's a valid question to wonder if he could benefit from this. Boogie Woogie is a curse technique that's used by Todo clapping his hands together, one of which is now missing, and the other that has his soul damaged beyond repair. Todo has never shown or even implied to be able to use another part of his body for his technique. So unless you want him to clap his feet together or something, I'm not seeing a way for him to make a comeback here. You can learn more about Yuji, Todo's student, by clicking the video on your screen, and a new type of video will be coming soon.